everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 7 of Heaven Officials Blessing, Season 2, The Donghua. I'm so excited. So yes, it feels so good to be back. It feels so good for Season 2 to be back. That hiatus was way too long. Last episode, I was fangirling. I was living. I'm like, yes, please give me my Hua Cheng, Hua Lian fantasy, please. And here we are. So last episode had a lot going on. Had a lot of things happening, even though we didn't trek a lot of ground. There was a lot of things going on. And Xie Lian's been whisked away by the Supreme Ghost King to who knows where. And Hua Cheng basically just threw his giant Supreme Ghost sea cucumber down on the table and was like, sure, come after us. Nobody's stopping you. And everybody was like, well. So, I do have some comments, but they are not safe for the Donghua onlys. They are spoiler corner comments. So we're going to save those for after this discussion. But I will be honest, as I'm going into this episode, I kind of remember what happens, but I don't. I feel like I'm telling myself I think there's something that occurs here in my head, but I can't quite remember if it's at this point in the story or not. So it's gonna be kind of fun to go into this. I've stayed away from social media and spoilers all day, and so I'm like, I don't quite remember what happens at this point in the story. So that's gonna be kind of interesting to see what goes on, right? But I'm super excited. The only thing I'm not excited about, y'all, these episodes are getting shorter and shorter. This episode's 21 minutes and 40 seconds. The last one was at least 22. I'm like, show, I know you've got to make up for that 31-minute episode at the beginning, but my only hope is that they're going to save some, that they're deliberately cutting the episode off at a weird place. Or at a specific place, because that's the best place for the cliffhanger or the ending of the episode, and it's gonna maybe make other episodes longer, I hope, or we get an OVA or something, because I'm like, by the time you take the OP and ED out, a 21-minute episode is like 18 minutes. That is nothing. Show, what are you doing? You come back from hiatus and you get shorter. Stop. I'm sure they have a reason, and we're gonna find out this episode what that reason is. So I want to give a quick shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. I'm really thankful for all of my patrons this time of year, especially those that support the channel, those of you that subscribe on YouTube, those of you that donate to the Patreon that I have. But the philanthropy tier members, they get a special shout out each week as they support me each month and give a little bit extra that they don't have to, but they're super awesome and do it. And I'm very, very grateful to it. So I want to give a shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Anna, to Be Happy, one of our moderators for Heaven Officials Blessing, as well as Dana, to Destiny Marie, to Edgar, to Eric, to Kiri, to Loisaji, to Lyndon, to Jimmy Lujan, to Aku Q, to Danger Zone, as well as Tyrone, Translucent Men, Trails, Matthew Puffaneer, Nameless Monster, Shimoyama, and Sunspots. Thank you all so much for all that you donate and for all of your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. My dogs at my feet want me to scratch her belly as I'm watching this, so if I'm bouncing up and down, that is why. Also from the excitement. But I pour myself like a hot cup of coffee because it's cold and wintry outside. I feel like I'm supporting Hua Cheng tonight. I wore this black turtleneck to work, and we did some like festive Christmassy things. So I had this like bow in my hair, and my nails are red. I feel like I'm supporting Hua Cheng very much. I feel like a Supreme Ghost Queen myself. No Supreme Ghost Queen. What's up, MXTX? Hashtag feminism. Joking. But we're going to find out what happens in episode 7 of Heaven Officials Blessing. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this. These episodes are too short. They're just too short. We're in a cave. Xie Lian, Hua Lian, Xie Lian, Hua Cheng in a cave together, going to find the Green Lantern, Qi Rong himself, supposedly. That's what we're gonna go check things out, right? And Lan Chenchu is like the cutest Daruma doll ever. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Daruma doll and everything, and get to the spoiler corner and all that. But man, this episode was so short. On the one hand, it was really short and there was a lot of recap, and I was like, Donghua, quit. Get us to new stuff. But on the other hand, 80% of the things that happened in this episode, I forgot about. So I was sitting there going, oh yeah, and that. I forgot. I just thought that we were just instantly in a cave, and nope, there was a bunch of stuff that happened in between, so that's really fun. I'm glad that we got to revisit this, but they of course had to start us back off with seeing Xie Lian and Hua Cheng, and Hua Cheng basically being like, I don't want you to hurt yourself, right? He's like, it's my fault. I hurt you, and I don't want you getting hurt, and that's the last thing I want. And then Xie Lian is oblivious. Like a brick wall could be right in front of him. Xie Lian be like, I wonder what this is. Like just, Xie Lian, you're so oblivious. But then he looks down at Ming that's hanging from Hua Cheng's waist, just like. And the way I was trying to say this in the reaction, but the way they described Ming in the book, this is exactly how I pictured him. It's so cartoonish and cute, but it makes this little purring, buzzing sound where it's like, just makes this little sound. It's so cute. I love that Hua Cheng and Xie Lian have their own little inanimate objects that follow them around. Like Xie Lian has Rui. Rui looked like the magic carpet from Aladdin, especially when it like smiled and it had long chin. You could see it like smiling. It just has its own personality, which is so funny. And then Ming's just an eye, but its eye emotes so much emotion. It's amazing. It just sits there like vibrating. It just sits there vibrating. And okay, let's just say it. Regardless of what you think Ming is, it is the biggest dick reference in this whole show. It is literally, it's just like a metaphor for Hua Cheng's penis. And when he's like, stop it, quit getting all worked up. It's like, I have my own theory about Ming and what Ming is specifically, that it is literally, Hua Cheng was like, I want to take all of my sexual desires and put it into this sword form, and that's what it is. Whether that's it or not, your guess is as good as mine. But then I like when Xie Lian goes to touch it, Hua Cheng's like, no, we won't make it to the cave if you touch a Ming. And what's interesting is like, it's the Ming kind of like blinks and spins around a little bit when Xie Lian goes to grab it, and then Hua Cheng pulls it back, and he's like, oh, just forget about it. And Ming starts to whine more, and he slaps it and calls it useless. And Xie Lian, Sun Long, why are you hitting it? Why are you beating it, Sun Long? MXTX finding all of the subtle ways to get past the censors, to be like, why are you beating your sword? That's a metaphor for your penis. What are you doing that for? And then Hua Cheng's just like, well, it's always crying and whining, useless. Now, we could get our minds out of the gutter and not make reference of what crying and whining could refer to. We can get our minds out of the gutter right now. We've got an episode to get through. Let's just do that. MXTX, I've read Modao Zushi. I know how kinky this stuff can get. So yes, I feel bad too for Xie Lian. Like, the idea of having this communication in array in your head sounds like a great idea. It sounds like a great idea to be able to instantly wirelessly communicate with anybody by just thinking about it. The problem is when they suddenly butt into your brain and scream, and you're like, oh, why? Like, because yeah, you have Feng Xin and Mu Qing who are like, how do we open the door? How do we get there? And Xie Lian's like, oh God, why are you all so loud? And Hua Cheng's like, didn't I tell you leave my gege alone? And he's like, oh, Jino Nanyang. I like how Hua Cheng just is so doesn't care. Hua Cheng is like, oh, your friends are trying to find you. Good luck. It's not going to work, but that's fun. Yeah, and Xie Lian's like, well, wait a minute. How did I get here? I like that it took Xie Lian until this moment to realize that him rolling the dice is the way that Hua Cheng got into the Heavenly Realm to find him. The dice were the key. And that kind of makes us wonder if, did Hua Cheng give him the dice with the presumption that Xie Lian would use them and he could come get him if needed? Maybe Hua Cheng was assuming Xie Lian would have figured it out, and Xie Lian, our oblivious cinnamon bun, was just like, I don't know. This is how it works. It's like, Now, I apologize if I spoiled that moment because I knew that at some point Hua Cheng was going to say that no matter what he rolled, it would lead him to him. I just said it a little too soon, so I'm sorry. I gotta be careful with y'all, with the Donghua onlys. I gotta be careful with what I say. But I do like that Xie Lian tries to warn Feng Xin and Mu Qing, and it's too late. So I really like, we get past this OP. I like what we get with Feng Xin and Mu Qing, though. I forgot about this. I forgot about this part of the novel, where I like the Windmaster is trying to hold down the fort in the communication array with the other gods. They're like, hey, wait, well, everything's gonna be okay. Like, Windmaster, bestie of the ages. I love the Windmaster. They're probably one of my favorite side characters. I love them. And they're just like trying to be a best friend, trying to hold down the fort. And then they remember, oh, wait, if you roll the dice and you don't get the right combination, it will take you somewhere you don't want to go. And so the Windmaster tries to warn them, but to no avail. I really liked the effect of while... what I like about this is it speaks so much for Feng Xin and Mu Qing's characters. You have Feng Xin who's trying to listen in on the communication array. He's trying to figure out what they're saying, trying to gather all the intel to come up with this pragmatic plan. And then you have Mu Qing who is being resourceful and looking around to find some way to implement things and put them into action. I kind of like that. I like that you have Feng Xin who wants to have all the data, all the stuff before they make a decision. And Mu Qing's a little bit more on the fly, like, okay, well, what if we use this and let's make this work and do this? And it's a little bit more spontaneous. I like that little character work that in this very short amount of time we see. I also really liked how Mu Qing took the rocks and made them into dice. I thought that was done really well in the Donghua. It's nice. I also appreciate that Mu Qing has like a blue color palette and then Feng Xin has red. You know, why would we expect anything else, right? But the dice don't exactly work the way that they think they're going to. And the thing that sucks is that the heavenly officials are just laughing. They're just laughing and making wages and just treating it all like it's just fun and games because they're not the ones suffering. It's all fun and games till it's you, but they could care less. And the Windmaster is the only person that seems remotely concerned for them because they've been through that experience too and know how bad it is. So they're like, oh no, where are you at? And I like how Xie Lian says, okay, they rolled a 4. Where does that take them? And Hua Cheng's like, random. He's like, I don't have a designated area for them. Now, Xie Lian thinks that his power is running out, and that's why his communication won't reach them. I don't know. Is it his communication is running out, or is it that Hua Cheng is like, I don't want you talking with them because they're no good? He's like, where will it lead? And Hua Cheng's like, it's random. The place the roller finds most terrifying is where they'll end up when they open the door. Now, for Feng Xin, the most terrifying place would be a bathhouse with a bunch of women because Feng Xin is terrified of women. Mu Qing doesn't seem too happy to be there either. And they both run out there and then they end up in the swamp. And I love that the Windmaster is just like under the fan going, be cautious, generals, please. Everything about the Windmaster in this episode was wonderful. They were animated so well. It was really good. And then they go to the place of crocodiles. I forgot all about this too. And these crocodiles that like look like half man, half beast. What? It's so weird. It does make me wonder. It does. And I guess now Mu Qing says both of these roles were Feng Xin's. So where would Mu Qing's have gone? I don't know. We don't really get to find out this episode. I do think it's interesting that we end up with both the cannibals and the worm, but both of those are kind of like the opposite of the refined, civilized, dainty self that the Windmaster, prides themselves in. So maybe that's why they rolled him and that was their fear. And for Feng Xin, obviously the women, but the marshy swamp, again, that kind of ties to Feng Xin's personality of they like to know where they're going. They like to have a plan. They like to have everything kind of clear and set forth in front of them. And the swamp is the opposite of that. You can't see through the water. There's things that you can't predict. That kind of seems like something that would make Feng Xin anxious. So I like that. I like the character work in the moment that we get with them throughout this. But yeah, of course they just keep splashing each other and fighting each other. It's like, get a room. And everybody's just trying to make bets. And poor Windmaster. I like the Windmaster is just like, I just like can't take it. That transition of the Windmaster's fan coming down and transitioning back to Hua Cheng and Xie Lian, beautiful. I loved that. That was really, really well done. So yeah, so then Xie Lian's like, I hope they give up soon. Because yeah, that's the idea. I'm pretty sure that no matter what they roll, because here's the thing, no matter what Xie Lian rolls, Hua Cheng will come and get him. No matter what they roll, I don't think they're getting out of it and finding them. No. Hua Cheng does not want them to come on their date. Hua Cheng is like, I've got my man to come with me to have a date night, and you guys are trying to muck it up. We're gonna go and break into a cave and get some ghosts riled up, and you're all just trying to break our fun up. How dare you? So yeah, and then Xie Lian asks, he's like, I wonder if there's something with the dice. He's like, so if I roll snake eyes, will it let me find you? And Hua Cheng's like, no. And you think he's going to get mad, but he never gets mad at Xie Lian. He loves Xie Lian. He's like, no matter what number you roll, I will appear. It's like, aw, it's super cute. It's this really beautiful moment. It's this really sweet moment. It's like a kiss the girl moment where Ariel and Eric are about to like go together. But you know who mucks that up? Lan Chanchu. Lan Chanchu just can't let them have their date night. He just shows up with Feng Xin. Now, I said this in the reaction. I always imagined Feng Xin to be this really broad, wide sword. I did not imagine it to be as narrow as it is in Donghua, but it's fine. I'm not complaining. I also wanted Lan Chanchu's hair to look different, but it's fine. The manhwa has spoiled me. Star Ember's artwork has spoiled me. But I like that Xie Lian kind of takes this opportunity. He's like, Lan Chanchu is not going to leave us alone until I fight him. But I'm going to make sure to establish when I fight him that he didn't say I couldn't use Rui, I couldn't play dirty. And Xie Lian kind of brings up a good point. He's like, if I had been your enemy, you would have been dead. Like, you want to fight like the big boys, then you got to accept the fact that the big boys might play dirty. And you got to be ready for that. It's like not everybody you face is going to be an honorable duel, you know? And I like that Xie Lian tries to tell him that. I love that Xie Lian's voice gets a little bit deeper. It like drops an octave when he's like talking to Lan Chanchu, and he sounds like the Goshi. Sounds like the Goshi of Yong'an. And they call him Feng Xin. They call him the Goshi Feng Xin, named after the sword. But I love that. And I love that he tries to like make this a teachable moment with Lan Chanchu. And I love the whole time Hua Cheng is just like, hello. There's a part of me that is like thinking that Hua Cheng like doesn't want Xie Lian to get hurt, so he's kind of like, okay. But then Hua Cheng knows how strong his Gege is, and he's like, oh, I just get to sit back and watch this? Oh, okay. Let me put my hand on a Ming while this all goes down. And then, yeah, Xie Lian using Rui. I love it. I love that Rui just smiles at him like, ha-ha. Super cute. Really, really cute, and just wraps him up. And Xie Lian's like, this fighting properly is something that like a child would do. No, he's like, Rui's one of my treasures, and he bound you. I didn't lose. He's like, you didn't specify that we only had to use swords. And he's like, all is fair in love and war, and sneak attacks are also a tactic. And the thing about it is, Lan Chanchu says that he's changed, and Xie Lian's like, no, I've always been this way. You just didn't see it. He's like, you knew me for... Because when he's like, you hid the fact that you were from Shanla for 5 years. And I'm like, Xie Lian's 800 years old. 5 years is nothing. It's like, that's a drop in a bucket to him. So he's like, oh, I didn't tell you where I was from for 5 years? Okay. So? Like, he's like, no, that shouldn't have made a difference. Mm-hmm. And he's like, think about it carefully. Don't let this happen again. I like that Xie Lian's like, he's like, I don't want you to go down this path next time. And then Lan Chanchu gets mad. And he says, what about my father? Have I, my father and my mother, been unkind to the remnants of the Shanla kingdom? And he talks about going back. Now, I don't know enough about Chinese culture and Chinese mythology to know if the bare robes that he's wearing during the scene, if they're a form of mourning, because they look almost like peasant robes. They look almost like, I don't know if that's an act of mourning, like when you lose someone, you kind of strip down all of the regality, and that's kind of your mourning period. You wear these more shabbier drab robes and then you go back to wearing what you did before. I'm assuming that's part of the mourning process because all the other men that are in the room are dressed in similar colors. Seems like that would be the case. But they wanted to just destroy everybody from Shanla that remained. And it seemed like there was, I don't know if that is it seems like that could have been somebody that was representative of Shanla there, because he kind of looks like Xie Lian a little bit. But he's just like, no, why would we do this? He looks a lot like Xie Lian, so I'm guessing maybe he's a representative of it. And Lan Chanchu is like, no, I'm going to uphold my parents and what they were trying to do, which ties to Xie Lian. And Xie Lian saying, just take care of your people. You can't please everybody, but take care of your people, if anything. And he's like, well, that's what my parents were trying to do, so I'm just going to keep doing what their mission was. And that's all I know to do. He's like, I'm not going to keep the cycle of violence going. And I love that. I love that he's just, Lan Chanchu chooses to do what's the more morally right thing. And then he comes back and says, but you were lying. He's like, I stood up for you. I said you weren't from Shanla. I lied. I said all these things that were lies. He's like, my mother and father, they underestimated you and they didn't know you. They honored you as the Goshi. He's like, I respected you as my master. And even after the Golden Feast, I insisted on saving the people of Shanla's lives and integrating them into the people of Yong'an. And he's like, are you intentionally fooling us and me? That day, when he said it was his birthday, I was like, that sucks. Because it's like, Xie Lian seems to have his reasons for why things happened the way that they did. But when Lan Chanchu was like, it was my birthday, I'm like, that sucks. That's like the worst 17th birthday present, is that you just like wake up and your whole family gets massacred by your mentor. You're like, that just sucks. And then he says, I'm never going to be like you. If you want me to become full of resentment like you, then I won't. He says, if you want to force me to self-destruction like you, then I won't. No matter how you treat me, I will never become like you. And seeing Xie Lian laugh, like have like a legitimate laugh, and then tear up and be like, good. Xie Lian and his mysterious dark past that we don't know anything about. But clearly, it's just, it just like comes to us in crumbs. It makes you want to know more. It makes you want to know more about Xie Lian. And the fact that he's glad that Lan Chanchu isn't going to become like him. It's just, and Hua Cheng just staring at him like his face is very unreadable, but poor Xie Lian with like the tears in his eyes. He's like, remember what you just said. And don't let this happen. But then they turn him into a Daruma doll. Like Hua Cheng's like, okay, fun. Conversation over. Bye. I love that Hua Cheng is just instantly like, let's make him a toy. Now, in the book, it's described as a Daruma doll. That looks kind of like a Daruma doll, kind of not like what I expect a Daruma doll to look like, but it's adorable. And I love that its face moves, that its eyes move over, like it's just facial features look over at him. Freaking adorable. I'm like, the cuteness of his grumpy face, amazing. And then I love that Hua Cheng's like, ha! Hua Cheng is such a kid. He like acts like a little brat sometimes where he's like, what you gonna do? It's so funny. And then Hua Cheng's like, hang on, Tim. We need to take him with us wherever we're going to. So I feel like when Hua Cheng rolls the dice, his intent all along was to go to this cave. That was his intent. And Xie Lian takes the sword with them, takes Lan Chanchu, and they go inside this cave. And I feel like what a date night. Hua Cheng's like, let's go in this cave to make out. And then we see all these goblins that are talking about their king returning. We assume that probably means the Green Lantern Qi Rong, we assume. Which I like that we have the Green Lantern and they have like the green ghost fire above their heads. That's really fun. I like that little detail. In the book, they seemed more like ghosts. I don't know. In the book, this isn't really a spoiler. Not really, because we're here at this point. But in the book, I feel like they were described more as ghosts. And in the manhwa, they look more like little Caspers, the friendly ghosts going around. Here, they're like the goblins. with the candles on, kind of like a sim or a Pikmin, right? They look like a sim or a Pikmin where they all just, like, the candles are controlling them, which could very well be the case, right? But my theory is that to make Xie Lian and Hua Cheng blend in better and be easier to draw, they decided to not make them fully ghosts, but just make their skin blue, have long nails, and have, like, elf ears and some freakish quality. You know what they look like? Especially Hua Cheng, you know what he looks like? Again, I've referenced this in other series. Have you seen the old 80s anime called Unico? You know Beelzebub, who's in Unico, who's blue and has pointy ears and a little devil horn? Yeah, that's what Hua Cheng and them look like. They look like little Beelzebubs from Unico. That's really, really funny. But yeah, I love that Xie Lian's like, what happened to me? I'm an elf with little ghost fire. And he's like, it's the style of the green amok Qi Rong, which amok is such a weird subtitle. It's the green ghost Qi Rong. I've always said his taste is low. Okay, his taste is low, and we get a shot of him lying down with the ghost fires beside him. So the demon mask that's in the OP is the one he's wearing. Okay, that makes more sense now. Interesting. He enjoys strolling under the green lanterns at night. Okay. Seeking an elegant artistic conception. Little do they know those green lanterns are simply ordinary candles. It's like, look, Qi Rong just has champagne taste on a beer budget. Can we blame him? He just, you know what? He couldn't afford Dillard's, so he had to settle for the dollar store. A ghost gotta do what a ghost gotta do, right? As they walk, it's no wonder all the little ghosts are under their command are dumbasses. Like, Xie Lian's just like, why are we here? Xie Lian's like, what are we doing here? Didn't you already clean up the nest? So yes, back in season 1, they talked about how Qi Rong had been, he'd found, when they were talking about, I'm trying to find the exact moment to say, but back in season 1, they made a point to say that Hua Cheng had dealt with Qi Rong, and Xie Lian brings it up here saying, well, didn't you already go there and face him? And he's like, yeah, I did, but he escaped. And so it seems like he's like, it took 50 years, but he's built himself a new layer here. So yeah, so basically Hua Cheng tried to get, wrecked Qi Rong's stuff 50 years ago. He escaped, and now he's found him here. So what better date night than to bring your boyfriend to go crash some ghost manor and wreck shit? What better date to do that? Am I right? And then he's like, why are we doing this? And he's like, I want Lan Chanshu to meet someone. Well, either he wants him to meet Qi Rong, or he wants to meet someone that Qi Rong is with, but we'll just have to see. I really like the new additions to the ED. They look really pretty. The mask with like the little, it's a sword piercing the mask that's shaped like a butterfly, and then all the red comes out of it. It's beautiful. I love it. And then there's fire. Now there's eyes, and I'm assuming those are Xie Lian's eyes, but it makes him look like Sauron. I'm like, why does Xie Lian's eye look like the eye of Sauron? I don't know how to feel about that. And then the kaleidoscope, it's just absolutely beautiful. So this episode was too short. It was far too short. And I still have some spoilers that I want to talk about. So if you're not sticking around for the spoiler corner, it looks like we'll probably meet Qi Rong next week. So that'll be exciting. So we'll get to see what that's like. But yeah. So if you're not sticking around for the spoiler corner, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next week for episode 8 of Heaven Official's Blessing. Oh my God! Anime probably knew what was going to happen this episode, but they were being really coy about it because they were like, oh, gee, yeah, it's going to be so crazy. Like when over on Patreon, they were like, oh, when you see Qi Rong, you're going to have to really hold it back. So the Donghua onlys aren't like, what? And I was like, it will be a testament to see how I can hold it back. And I feel like I didn't hold back, but I tried my hardest. I was like, he's here. He's next episode. Y'all, rule of 8. Christmas Day, Qi Rong is gonna be here. Ah! So excited! I'm so ready. So, okay, we're gonna talk about this episode. There are a couple spoilery things that I was trying not to talk about in the discussion just now, and I thought I was handling it very rationally, very well. But there's things I want to talk about. I do have some comments I want to bring up as well, so we might as well bring those comments up now before we dive into this episode and talk about spoilers. SQQLBH314 said that the Goshi, I really loved this because I kind of had forgotten that Banyu was a Goshi. I forgot she was a Goshi. I was like, oh my god. So you have Mei Nianqing, which I'm reading about right now. I've just finished volume 7 as I'm recording this. So I'm just finished volume 7. So you have Mei Nianqing. Then you have Xie Lian, who Mei Nianqing taught, who became a Goshi after him, of Yong'an. Then you have Banyu, who Xie Lian taught, who became a Goshi after him. So I thought it was kind of funny that you have, like, Mei Nianqing is kind of like the boomer generation or Gen X. And then you have Xie Lian that's kind of like Gen X or millennial. And then you have Banyu who's like millennial or Gen Z. So it's just like the generations and they go on down. I thought that was really, really cool. And then Anime Annie said that Xie Lian, and Lou said this as well, that it was like Xie Lian wearing the dark robes. It was like them in their emo phase. And I'm like, that is true. I could see that. But also, that means they didn't get into their emo phase until 500 years after the trauma. And I was like, what? So, I really like the idea Anime Annie pointed out that Lan Chanchu's doodle on the scroll in the last episode, it shows like 3 little figures, but they're actually Xie Lian's sword moves to save him, and he was drawing it out like he was trying to teach himself. Poor Lan Chanchu on his birthday. How dare. And then the red accents on the mask. I didn't know whether to talk about this in the reaction or not, so it may not be a spoiler, but I like that Anime Annie pointed out that with eyes, a lot of times Chinese villains will have the red eyeliner under their eyes, like Hua Cheng has it throughout this. And when Xie Lian's the Goshi, he has it, as well as accents on his mask, which could point to the fact that the Donghua is trying to make the audience think Xie Lian's a bad guy when he was the Goshi of Feng Shen. So that's really interesting. And then, who knew that Feng Shen would become a DILF? I didn't. Going into this series, I did not at all, but we're not even near that plot line. God, no. No, we're going to talk about this a little bit, though, with Feng Shen, but how many dick stroking metaphors can we have in this series? The answer is yes. I love him being to pieces. He's so good. And they do a really good job of getting past the censors, of getting whatever they can inside. I felt so bad for revealing the dice thing before it happened. Now I know how you all feel. I'm sorry. I felt so bad. I was like, oh, shit, I said that too soon. This is why I would not be a good commenter for a reactor. I would say it too soon. I do like the idea of Mu Qing being resourceful and making the dice up. I also like that we get little subtle hints about Feng Shen and his concern and his wanting to control the situation and have things under control or organized a certain way. It speaks volumes to how he would react when we get to Book 4's events and the stuff with Xie Lian and Zhanlan. But, man, poor Windmaster trying to hold it all together. And then the bathhouse, the marsh. It's a fun time. And then Hua Cheng being like, wherever you roll the dice, I will come and get you. Now, I just ended volume 7, and in that volume, Xie Lian and Hua Cheng rolled the dice, and it was snake eyes, and he was worried about that because he thought it was bad luck. And then they just got separated in the end of volume 7, and Xie Lian knows that Hua Cheng is technically okay because the thread, but he's like, ugh, where's he at? So that's where I'm at. So that's my level of curiosity and interest. Now, there was something kind of weird where he says, you can see me as long as you roll the dice, right? And Xie Lian's like, oh. And then there's like a droplet of water that crashes. And then it goes back to Xie Lian. I don't know what the purpose of that is. Maybe it's a novel thing that I should not know about yet. I don't know why there's a drop of water there. That's interesting. Or if it's referring to something in the past. If you all know down below. If it's something that is that has relevance before volume 7 ends that you can tell me about, sure. But if it's something that's going to be revealed in volume 8, don't say anything to me. But yeah, the droplet of water is interesting. I don't exactly know the meaning of it. But then Lan Chanshu shows up. Okay, the idea now, like I said, I was not lying in this. I forgot about Mu Qing and Feng Xin going off to try to find them. I forgot about that. I forgot about Lan Chanshu. I just thought this episode was going to start us off going into the cave, and we were going to immediately meet all the people that are being held hostage to be eaten by Qi Rong. I forgot about all the rest of this jazz. So I was like, oh, that's what this episode is going to be? Fine. We'll get to see Qi Rong next episode, I guess. But what I like about this is that I had forgotten, one, Rui being like all sinister and sly and tying him up. I'm like, it's fun to talk about Rui now because we don't know the full story about his character. It's like, oh no. But one thing I do really like is Xie Lian being like, good, don't become like me. After book 4, that has so much more meaning now, where Xie Lian was like, good, I don't want, because in this moment, it could have become a situation like Bai Wusheng influencing Xie Lian back in book 4. It could have become an instant like that, where Bai Wusheng got the hatred and fury riled up in Xie Lian to the point where he went to Yong'an and they slaughtered Long Ying and the prince that supposedly was replacing him. Like that was like what could have happened with Lan Chanshu, but Lan Chanshu changed the game and broke from the cycle and was like, I'm never going to become like you. And Xie Lian's like, thank God, because I was starting to become like Bai Wusheng. I don't want you to follow in those same footsteps. That all makes so much more sense now. That's such a good callback. Yes, I love that. So that's really great. And then Hua Cheng the entire time just looking and being like, you can tell Hua Cheng is trying to pick and choose his moments. And once Xie Lian gets that laugh out, once it becomes apparent that, you know, Lan Chanshu said his piece, then Hua Cheng is like, okay, you can become a doll now. I really love the Daruma doll style. They're amazing. I can't wait to see Qi Rong as a Daruma doll and Ling Wen with the scrolls. I can't wait to see it. That's going to be so cute. But I love that it's like eye moves around just like in the book. It just, I need Qi Rong and the Daruma doll going, like I just need it. So cute. Also, Hua Cheng just being a child, being like, I like collecting dolls. Thank you. It's great. Love it. And then, yeah, we got the whole flashback and everything, which was really sad. I think they did a good job of Lan Chanshu's flashback. They did a really good job of the scene with Lan Chanshu as well. And then into the cave we go. Now, I like the little goblin designs that Hua Cheng and Xie Lian have. I like the goblin designs. I think they're cute. The blue skin is fun. I think it will be, it's obviously easier to animate, but I like them both having like the sharp pointy nails. And the blue skin looks good on Hua Cheng. Xie Lian, bless his heart, he looks a little goofy, but Hua Cheng, he pulls off the little demon look there. And then, oh my God, we're getting Qi Rong next episode. We're getting him next episode. I've waited so long. He looks so good already with the green robes. It's so garish and tacky. Like he's just like all lounging around. He's got like the glove has the thumbnail present. It's got this long green nail. And he has like the green overcoat with the little skulls. And like has the blue robe underneath it. And you can see his hair all lanky. But the green Oni mask, I did not realize in the OP that that's him. So okay, that makes more sense now. I don't recall him having... In the book, he had a mask, but it was very, like, slender, and it looked more like a parody of Xie Lian's mask he wore as the Crown Prince. So I find it interesting they gave him, like, a goblin mask. I think the goblin mask is more appropriate for Qi Rong than the princely mask, but, oh my God. I'm so excited to not only see his face, but to hear him speak and to see his voice actor and to hear some of these lines that I've waited so long to see. They're obviously going to have to censor his words because he cusses like every other word. But oh my God. And it gets me next week. Rule of 8. Rule of 8. Rule of 8. As well as Qi Rong showing up. As well as Christmas. It's just... MXTX. You knew what you were doing when you had these 2 weeks. You knew what you were doing. Yes. And it's taking all I have to not call Qi Rong Xie Lian's cousin. It is taking all that I have not to say that. Because I'm like, don't say it. Because we don't know yet. Oh my god. I'm so excited for the Dongwa only people to meet Qi Rong. I hope they love him as much as I do. Because he's the worst. He's the worst, but you have to love him because he's just such trash. But, yeah! Love me some Qi Rong. So yeah, I'm really excited. Next week's gonna be so much fun. God, give us like a 25-minute episode or 23 minutes or something. Please, Donghua. We need it. They literally made this episode short so they could cut off right with Hua Cheng saying, I went to Lanchanchu to see somebody. I'm like, that's why you cut it off right there. Of course you did. I want to see it so bad though, so I'm so excited. Yay! So I can't wait, y'all, to talk about next week's episode. It's going to be so much fun. But I can't wait to hear your thoughts down below. Maybe you caught something from the novel that's a callback from volume 7 or below that you'd like to point out in the comments below. But I was happy with this episode, but it definitely is a transition episode into next week. And next week, we get to meet Guzi, we get to meet Qi Rong. Yes. Can't wait. So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next week when we meet Qi Rong with Heaven Official's Blessing. Bye! Let's talk about this.